Hello y'all, how y'all are? I thought I'd need to come on here and make another video to kind of explain what I said about the cops. Now I want to give you a little history of me growing up and my dealings with cops, and you might understand why I feel the way I do. Now I know that we need the police force. If we didn't, it'd be total chaos. But just like anything, any kind of a group that gets formed, through the years, you know, it morphs into its own thing. And I'm not sitting here saying that all cops are bad. I know they're not, and they're trying to get better. It's for sure. But this starts out back when I was a teenager. Me and my cousin. This is back in the '60s when, you know, kids could get out and walk around the streets and you know, at night just walk around just with nothing to do. You know, we was bored. So we'd go to each other's houses and say we was going to have a sleepover. Well, as soon as the parents went to bed, man, we was up and out the back door, and we'd just go out roaming the streets. Well, we had a cop on the south end of town. His name was Vogelmeyer. Every time he seen us, he was going to harass us. He'd stop us. Where you going? What you been up to? Why you out this time of night? And, you know, we could count on it. We knew every night that he was going to be out there waiting for us. And sure enough, he would be. Well, okay, that got to be kind of a joke for us. You know, we'd go out just knowing he's going to be out there. So we just kind of went out there and just to pull his chain. We'd see his cop car coming, boy, we'd take off, knowing that he was going to come out and chase us. And we would go through backyards. We knew that there was clotheslines on, just hoping he couldn't see it and clothesline itself. And so anyway, later on in life, I grew up, back up in my teens, 17, 18 years old, and I got put in jail one time for a traffic ticket. Well, I spent some time in city jail, and while I was in there, it was in the wintertime. I can remember that because it's colder than shit. And they would keep a window open just to make it as miserable on us as they could, I guess. And I was in there, and we had just one little old blanket, you know, and I heard the biggest commotion, and from my cell, I could see into the interrogation room. And I could see them cops just waylaying this old drunk guy. I mean, they were just beating the shit out of him. And so, you know, they finally went to put him in a cell, and he was so drunk he couldn't hardly walk, and they shoved him and he fell down, and they was kicking him, trying to get him into this cell. Well, he got all the way in he had his foot hanging out, and this jailer, "Get your damn foot in the cell or it's coming off." And he was passed out. You know, he couldn't move. And so this fucking jailer, wham! He had a lever there that you don't crank leather, and you go like that and it shut the doors. Wham! Up against that and snapped his fucking leg and just walked over and kicked him on in the cell and left him lay there till the next morning, then called the hospital or the ambulance to come get him, take him to the hospital. I've seen guys in jail that was on medication. They wouldn't give him the medication, you know. If you didn't have the medication that you needed on you, you know, they wasn't going to call nobody to bring you your medication. You just shit out of luck. So anyway, after that, me and some buddies of mine was out. I went to a bar where my buddies just hung out, and I didn't have any money. I just went there to visit. And so anyway, I went in there and sat down, and they said, "Well, what are you drinking?" I said, "I'm broke. I just come into bullshit." And this one buddy of mine says, "Well, I'll tell you what. I'll buy you every beer that you chug." I said, "All right." So the barmaid, she brought a big old tray full of tall draws. And so I'm chugging these beers, and what I didn't know is they was on the side of me spiking them with rum. So I drank these 12 tall draws, and I don't know how much rum they had in them. But I was so freaking drunk, I couldn't pat my ass with both hands. So I was raising commotion, and so Gina, she says, "You better take him home, sober him up." So they did, and my buddy just lives about 4 blocks from there. So we headed over to his house, and I was drunk, and I was kicking cars and yelling and, you know, just acting the ass. Well, we get right up to this guy's, he lived in these apartments. You go in, there's a stairway that goes up to the second floor. He lived on the second floor. And somebody said, hollered, "Cop!" And I took off running, you know. And like an idiot, my buddy, I thought he was right behind me. Well, he run the other way, I guess. Well, anyway, I run and I get to his door, and I'm waiting for him, and I turn around, and here comes this cop. Man, was he pissed. He grabbed a hold of me, and he slung me around toward the stairway, yelling to me for "Get up!" And the way it was, the stairway was at the end of the hall, and there was a balcony. It had this glass door with panes of glass that was about this wide and about that tall, all over the front. And he pushed me and I fell down. He pushed me and I fell down. Well, the third time, he just took his foot and shoved me. Well, I went like this to brace myself. Well, my hand went through the glass door, and it was thick glass. You can't tell it, but I've got a scar from here that runs all the way up here, all the way over here, and down here. And I wake up the next morning in the hospital, and I have this big old bandage on my arm. And I asked the nurse, I said, "Well, what in the hell happened to me?" And she told me. She said, "Boy, you was drunk and kept hollering for Vogelmeyer, Vogelmeyer." So we just had the cop on duty come over and see what you wanted, and he was asking why he was the way he was and what he had against us and all that. Well, anyway, after that, a few years later, I went to file charges against this cop, and I went to a lawyer, and they said, "Well, you don't want to do that. If you file charges against this cop, more than likely you're going to lose the case, and you'll have every cop in the state after your ass after that. So the best thing you can do is just forget about it, because it's a no-win situation." So I did. Well, a few years later, A buddy of mine come over to my house and asked me if I wanted to go riding with him. I said, "You don't have a car?" He said, "Yeah, I borrowed my aunt's." So we went out riding, and come to find out, he had stolen his car from the hospital. Well, the cops caught us and they put us in jail, and his girlfriend was sleeping with his lawyer. So he got out on parole, and I got put in what they call the P farm for a year. And while I was in there, that's 4 months into it, I got put in the kitchen. And one of my jobs was washing the pots and pans, and the other job was they had a kitchen in the back just for police officers. They'd come there on their lunch break, and we'd fix the meals for them. Well, you would not believe some of the shit that I heard them talking about going to a guy's house after he went to work and shacking up with his old lady, or some little old teenage girl, her mom would be working, and she'd go like she's going to school, and then she'd, as soon as her mom would leave, she'd go back to the house and call this cop, and he'd come, get him a little, and be on their beats, and they'd be checking places out. If they seen a place open, they would go in, check to see if there's somebody still in there, and if there wasn't, if there's anything they wanted in there, hell, they just take it, stick it in their trunk, and then call for backup. And like I said, some of the stories I heard them talk about, you would just curl your hair. And I lived in Oklahoma. Well, my landlord, one of his best buddies, was a cop. Well, we went over to his house one day, and he was telling us, he took us down in the basement, which was his man cave. He had all his walls full of knives, guns, you name it, he had it down there. Things that he'd taken off of people. And he was telling us, that he would bust somebody, and if they had a weapon on them, he'd take the weapon, and or if they had drugs, he'd take the drugs and say he was going to turn it in. Well, it never got turned in. And he had a guy that would either sell the stuff for him or whatever. And just here a couple of years ago, I was in Louisiana. Well, my son come to visit me, and he went out one Friday night, and he had his baby boy there with us. Well, he come in about 10 o'clock, and I heard him go in, take a shower, and he left again. So Saturday night, the same thing, which I thought was the same thing, but I get waking up with somebody pounding on the door, and then the baby started crying. So I go in there, and I see these fucking red and blue lights are flashing, and I open up the door, and my front yard was full of cops. And I walked out there and I said, "What in the hell do y'all want this time of night?" "Well, do you know such and such and so and so?" I said, "No, I don't. I've told you that 5 times already. Now, what in the hell do you want?" "Well, do you know Troy Ledoux?" And I said, "Yeah, it's my son. Why?" "Is he in there?" And I said, "No, he's not. He was, but he left." "Well, let us go in and see for ourselves." And I said, "Well, you got a search warrant?" "Oh, that's the way you're going to play the game, huh? Well, we'll go get a warrant. When we come back, you and your son both be going to jail." So they stood out in the front yard for 15 minutes, and they played the good cop, bad cop on me. They sent up the good cop. "Well, Mr. Ledoux, we don't want to cause you no problems. We just want to talk to your son," and yada, yada, yada. So I said, "Look, he's not in there, but if y'all want to go in, go ahead." They went in there, and my little house was a living room, a kitchen. You go into a little hallway, the bathroom, and then the bedroom. And when I come out, I didn't see him. So, anyway, to make a long story short, he was in there, and I didn't know it. And they took him and put him in a cop car, and then the cop turns around and he says, "Stand up." And I said, "What for?" He says, "Turn around and put your hands behind you." I said, "For what?" "You're going to jail." I said, "For what?" He said, "Disobeying a police officer." I said, "Are you shitting me?" Because my constitutional right says that you have to have a search warrant to come into my house, and because I didn't want you in my house without a search warrant, you're going to put me in jail for that? Well, anyway, it went on. I spent a week in fucking jail. And then when I got out, they give me a court date. When the court date come, I was there. They didn't have me on the docket. They'd send me back home. Give me another court date. That happened 3 times. Till finally, I said, "This is enough. You know, you either fucking do something this time or I ain't coming back." And the district attorney looked at that, and he knew right offhand that that was a bogus charge. He said, "Well, I'll tell you what." He said, "I'm going to take care of this." He said, "If I ever see you in my courtroom again," he said, "you'll get the full extent of the law." And I said, "Well, you don't have to worry about it because I ain't." And so anyway, that's just some of the reasons why I don't care for cops. You know, I know we need them. It'd be anarchy if we didn't have them. But you look on the news all the time. The police brutality. You know, that show I watched last night. You know, the protesters. Some of the cops was carrying the people out, you know, by their hands and feet, which was good. You know, they're protesters. You know, they're bucking you. Do it that way. Put them in. But no, they had some of the cops. They was getting off because they was clubbing the shit out of the people. They had their damn little baseball bats and just beating the fuck out of people. And, you know, so, you know, I don't care for cops. I've known cops personally that when they was off duty, they was the coolest people in the world. You know, they'd even smoke dope with you. But they tell you, as soon as I put that uniform on, if I catch you, you're going to jail. And they was doing the same thing we was. I had my wife's cousin. He got on the police force. He got kicked off twice for police brutality. He'd get a job bouncing someplace, and he'd take people out there in the parking lot, just beat the shit out of them, just to show he was a badass cop. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So that kind of explains why I feel the way I do. Okay, y'all, this is run way too far, so I'll probably have to edit some of this out. So y'all take care. God bless. Love y'all. Have a good day.